time for part 2 of this year's Christmas journey. We can make this intro quite quick this time. What is Santa without his elves? I will make 5 of them out of these capsule chicks. Let's just start with them. And because it is me, I deleted the footage where I sculpted the back of the elves' hats and their ears. I just made them out of foam clay, so nothing really exciting that you will miss. But that is the first step. Then I sprayed them with a base skin tone that I had laying around. And I decided to block out most of the colors with acrylics. Originally I planned that I will use soft pastels and watercolor pencils. But because I didn't sand the little critters beforehand, the color wasn't sticking too well to them. And as soon as I tried to use watercolor pencils, I destroyed all of the base coats, so not the greatest thing. I am still not entirely sure if it is completely my fault because not sanding them, or if it is the acrylic paint in a can that is not the best alternative for spray paint out of an airbrush. Though I don't have an airbrush, I can't test it. But so far, when I used canned acrylic paint, it was always the same problem. So, doesn't matter, we used acrylics, and first I put down 3 layers of white for the eyes, and then I gave the irises a darker color and then put in the lighter one. At this point, still thinking that the rest of it will be fixed in the next step. Which it was kind of, but not as I thought. Here you see me attempt the whole part with the pencils, and I tried very eager to use them. But yeah, at this point I noticed I'm more or less just destroying the lip color underneath, and I first thought, okay, maybe I can just scratch it off, use the original paint, and yeah, it was a bit of back and forth because, let's face it, you try to make it easier for you, or at least I do. And then I brought out the acrylics again, made a little lighter version, and tried to shade them at least a little bit. For me, it is quite tricky to do details on this scale, and yes, I know there are already bigger than, for example, a Barbie head, but still, it is tiny for me. I know there are people out there that have the skills to make tiny stuff with acrylics and completely nail it. I'm not one of them. So, let's face it, I made it as easy for me as possible, but I think they turned out quite okay. Could have been better, could have been worse. And with the painted lashes on, I think they looked quite nice. What I didn't mention, I not only sculpted the hats, or re-sculpted them, you know what I mean. I also tried to alter 2 of the bodies to be more masculine. So basically, I just removed the breast part and sculpted over it to make it a little bit less skinny in the waist. You see both of these critters having these altered bodies, I switched the one of the female elf later to one that has still boobs. And it was quite interesting to try make these very, very female cutesy faces look a bit more male, but I think it worked halfway decent. I think you can read the one I'm working on now as male later, so I would say goal achieved. That was then the moment where I took out the fake lashes, glued them on her, and then glazed their eyes and her lips, just to give them a little bit more life. The clothing part isn't filmed. I basically just pinned together 2 layers of the fabric and sewed around it, just made very simple shapes like a T for the shirt or, yeah, the shape for the pants, and that was entirely just very, very easy and quick because I couldn't be bothered to go too much into detail with the bodies, with the clothing. Because, of course, there are 5 of them, and I had to finish all of them in time. So, just very easy clothing, but I think still effective. And I decided to use up some old acrylic yarn that I brushed out for other projects. I have so many hanging around on wires in my living room that I decided, why not use some of it? So I straightened the rest of the yarn and just went to town. For him, I gave him, more or less the front part and a little bit in the back because I knew he will wear a hat, and for her I just detwisted the yarn and glued it in place. With knowing that I wanted her to have 2 ponytails, that was quite easy as well. I had to hide some spots because I wasn't too worried about it, but it turned out quite nice. After that was, let's say, decently dry, I cut away the excess and styled them at least a little bit. He got a rather short haircut, and she got just a little bit of a trim, and then I made her hair into 2 ponytails. Into 2 ponytails, that sounds absolutely strange. For the bows in her hair, I used the same ribbon that I used for the belts to tie everything together. Yes. Oh my gosh. But with that, these 2 were done, and I did the 3 others off camera, because basically all the same steps again. So, and these are our 5 Christmas elves. I am a little bit disappointed that I wasn't able to use soft pastels and watercolor pencils, but I think they turned out quite cute, so I'm fine with them. And with that, we are left with only 1 video. So, I hope you enjoyed this little journey, and we will see us in the next one. Bye!